Hi, I'm Charlotte Merrill, and this is our So Let's Be Friends podcast. This is a place where everyone belongs, and every story matters. Together, we celebrate our differences, bring awareness to disabilities, and build a more inclusive and supportive world. One conversation at a time, let's open our hearts and listen with kindness.
I like when people ask me about my crutches because they can get to know me, and I like having friends, so let's be friends.
This life is beautiful, and you are wonderful.
Hi, friends, and welcome to So Let's Be Friends, the podcast where we believe that every person belongs and every story matters. Today's episode is really special. I get to talk with two amazing people who helped others every day. My speech therapist and her friend, a physical therapist. They both work with individuals with disabilities, and they believe deeply in inclusion, independence, and hope. Whether you are a parent, teacher, or friend just starting out in the world of advocacy or disability support, this episode is for you. You hear stories, advice, and encouragement from two professionals who have helped so many people find their voice, their strength, and their place in the world. So let's be friends and get started. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been working with individuals with special needs?
I'm Miss Joanne Mensch. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I work with all kinds of individuals with disabilities. I work on communication skills, I work on language skills, I work on pragmatic social skills. I help individuals to speak more fluently, to speak more intelligibly so that we can understand each other. And I have been working with special needs and individuals with disabilities for 32 years.
Wow.
And majority of that was in the schools. And I worked about 30 years in the public school system. And I also had private therapy that I would work with individuals. And now I've retired from the school district and I work just in private therapy. With individuals through Division of Developmental Disabilities. And I love my job. I still love my job, and I love helping others and families and to work on integrating into the community and being independent as you possibly can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And she's doing amazing with our children.
Thank you.
And I'm Anna. I'm her mom.
I love her.
Oh,
We do love her. Thank
I
you.
love you guys too. It's very special I could be here. Thank you.
And I'm Sherry Craver, and I'm a physical therapist. And I actually started working with special needs when I was in high school. I was a lifeguard swim instructor. I did adaptive aquatics, and then I also did Special Olympics. And so I always knew that I wanted to work with people and that. And so in high school, I ended up volunteering at the hospital in respiratory therapy, physical therapy, to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I probably wanted to go into the medical field, and I picked physical therapy. And so then I graduated in 85. I'm a little old. And and then I worked in the hospitals for 5.5 years.
Wow.
And I worked mainly with adults, occasionally with kids who we'd cover on weekends. I worked outpatient, back program, oncology, and then did my last 3 years in rehab. And one of my favorite things when I was doing rehab, which then kind of takes me into some of what I did with the schools, is I did community reentry.
Wow.
So, and then when you're working with people that have always had independence in the community and then all of a sudden have had an injury and then were unable to go back into the community like they used to, we used to teach them how to make reservations at hotels, at restaurants. We taught them how to like make airline tickets and what they needed to do
That's
so they
incredible.
could be independent in the community like they used to be. And then I moved to the schools, and I still work in the Washington Elementary School District, and I love it. I've done that for 34 years in the district.
Wow.
And yeah, so I started then, and I continue to work with them, and I love it. And I'm very blessed that Joanne invited me up here to meet you guys, because she has been talking about you. And so it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you
When
guys.
she
Thank
said she's
you.
bringing her best friend that's a physical
Thank you.
therapist, that was pretty special because our therapists have been very precious to our family. They become our family, and we're just so grateful. And we miss our one that retired, Mary.
Yeah.
We miss her, hoping that we get to introduce her
Big
to the world
shoes
someday.
to fill.
Because
Thank
she's
you.
taught us what inclusion means, and she taught us to have a voice. And so we are grateful
That's great.
for what you guys do for not just the therapy part, but the encouragement and the advocating you teach us.
And
It's huge.
speaking of that, I have a Disney hat that use your voice
Aw.
from The Little Mermaid.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, she saw that and just said, I have to buy that, Mom. And that was a lot of money at Disneyland for her to spend her own money on that, but that was important for her.
That is.
It's
And it is
been
important to
through
have
a
your
lot
voice.
since then.
That has been through a lot. It's even been ran over, and we keep repairing and fixing it because that's an important
I
part.
might have to look for one for myself.
Yeah, it's a big neat hat, and it's
That's
been
cool.
one of our favorite things. So
That is.
I'm
I
glad you
left
shared
it across the world at my cousin's
it's
house.
traveled across the world, had to get mailed back. It's been on its own adventure. It has its own voice, and it's taught her. I never thought about that. You're funny. Awesome.
What first inspired you to become a therapist?
Okay. Oh, well, I had to think about that. But my earliest memory was playing as a child in upstate New York, and one of my neighbors was deaf. And I noticed that she was using a communication system,
Wow.
and it was sign language and finger spelling. And I think that was my earliest memory of someone that was different in a different abled communication. And then I would often spend, as I got older, I would spend the night at friends' houses when I was a teenager. And I would often go to church with them on Sunday. And so I went to a church, and one of their friends and a gal that was part of the congregation was signing, and she was talking and communicating with family members. And the family I was with knew her because they attended that church, and we started learning finger spelling as a teenager. And so my girlfriend and I would sit in the back of the car when we would drive places with them, and we would have our own way of communicating with each other and finger spelling.
Interesting.
So I'm pretty good at finger spelling and continue to be. And then we would communicate with each other finger spelling. And then I traveled for the first time on an airplane. I was 16, and I ended up going to Europe. And I thought at that point, when I graduated, I wanted to do international business. I had the thought of just going through business school and doing international business. And I, through college, realized I didn't want to be a business major. So my RA, the gal that was in my dorm, residence assistant, she was going through the speech program at school at Plattsburgh State. And she said, I think you'd like this. and she gave me books, and then I signed up for a sign language class, and then it started from there. So
you know how interested she is in sign language, right? I can hear her gears going in her head right now.
I didn't know
She actually has
that.
one sign language certificate. It's been hard.
Yeah, we can work on that.
She wants to learn sign language so badly. I'll have to send you some of her videos where she signed and re-recorded them for songs.
Good job, Charlotte.
Thank you.
So my first job, so then, you know, I went through my undergrad, came to Arizona. I'll do a real condensed version. I didn't know that I could work without my master's. They were just starting to require a master's. And so I had my undergrad at 22, and I found a job in the paper. Back then it was in the paper, and it was, I didn't know, I was living in Tempe, didn't know where Phoenix was, and it was at the Washington School District with this,
that's where
this
met her.
my buddy.
Wow.
And they hired me and said, don't talk to anyone else. And they hired me, and I learned so much, but I started at 22 in special needs preschool. And that was always dear to my heart, doing the little ones.
Yes.
And then it went for years. Being in that school district, I worked with many, many different grade levels and different contained classes, but also some side-by-sides that were inclusion, as much of inclusion as we were doing. They were side-by-side, self-contained, and regular ed
working
classes.
towards the model of inclusion.
Yes,
That's neat.
and I did a lot of that at Sweetwater and some of the schools there. So
Excellent.
yeah, I think that's how I got started in it. How about you?
So, as I go back, I mean, I have always loved working with kids, and I did that with swimming and adaptive aquatics, but and also with other, all kids, adults, and actually babies. So I've always had
sprinklers going on.
a desire to work with people, and I love people, and I counseled most of my friends through a lot of stuff, even at a young age. And then I also watched my mom. She was a nurse. So the health profession was very much a part of our life. And she did a lot of volunteers for Easter Seals, setting up orthopedic clinics in Kingman.
Excellent.
Because there was no orthopedic doctors there for pediatrics. So she would set up clinics a couple times a year for like 200 plus kids.
Wow.
To have these doctors come in. So I was introduced to pediatrics through my mom, and then with the aquatics, and then Special Olympics. And I just always knew I wanted to work with people. I always dreamed of like working with kids and making up like a playground with all the fun equipment. Well, I never did that, but that was always
starting to do that now.
Yes, and so I always dreamed about
works,
that.
yeah.
But so that's really how I got started and had the interest. I left Good Sam after 5.5 years and started looking around. And when I got the offer from the Washington district, it took me to my pediatrics, which I knew that at some point in time I was going to do.
That's wonderful. Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you. What do you love most about your work?
Really, it's working with people. It's working with people and making a difference in this world. I believe that we're not here on earth to be just to take care of ourselves. We are really on this earth to take care of people. And I feel through my job and through kind of my personality that I can give back. And I think that's what we all should be doing in life in general. And working in my field, I feel like I haven't just given to people I work with, but I have got so much more back than I've ever given. So that's really what I love most about my job is, we all make a difference and we all touch each other in our lives together.
Beautiful.
Well, I can't top that. I would say connection. And I think for those of us that do the work, it's connecting with and I don't like the word clients, with my students, with my clients, with my family. And it's not just working with the client, it's really what the family's wishes are as well, and working closely with mom and dad and caregivers and family members, and then trying to transition them to the community, and continuing to work on, just what your focus is, which is inclusion and acceptance, you know. So I think, yeah.
I appreciate it. It's such a simple thing, and you probably hear it already with me, but one of the things the speech therapist, like you said, with family, it made me think of the speech therapist, Mary, who helped me to slow down when I spoke. Because I already speak fast, and I try to slow down all the time, but especially when you're trying to help your children speak when they have speech impediments and problems. And so she would actually work with me and give me goals to slow down when I spoke.
That is true, yeah.
And so it didn't just help me with my own kids, but it helped me in community and my confidence. And
oh, that's wonderful.
So when you say families, that kind of rings
family
to me.
is really important, and you're their first teacher. So my biggest thing is that, you know, you have to be involved. You're the first teacher. We're just there to guide and support that, but we don't do all the work.
You guys do a lot of work.
So it's what you've done, what you do all the time daily, right? You just told me your mom is good at everything.
Oh.
I think that's what she said. She's pretty good. So yeah, I think it's connection for me, and I get back, just like you were saying. I will second that. I get back as much as I'm able to give.
The sprinklers are going off behind us. Sorry.
Yes.
Hopefully we don't get wet at all.
Or we could get wet. A different kind of podcast.
Yes.
What does inclusion mean to you and in your therapy practice?
I think that inclusion is really about looking at the strengths that everyone has and bringing those strengths together and making sure that everyone feels like they're a part of whatever the community is, be it your home life, your school life, or actually in the community. And and for inclusion, like, how do I put that into practice is if I have kids that are going to be in a classroom, I want to make sure that their environment is such that they can easily maneuver around the classroom, so that they can easily be a part of the classroom and not segregated off to the side in this table that is not close to the rest of the kids. I need to teach.
That happens a lot, actually.
Yes, it does, and to teach the teachers, because so many of the teachers haven't had kids that have some special needs in their classroom or don't know how to adapt, and they think they're doing the best thing by giving them that space. But how do we bring them together? How do we make them a part of that group? How do we pull those one-on-one aids away from the kids so that the kids have that opportunity to be a part of that classroom and are not overshadowed by the one-on-ones? And our one-on-ones do amazing jobs, amazing jobs. And I appreciate them so much. But they also need guidance from us also. And so my job is to guide.
I love that.
And and I really want, and some people might not agree with me, but that one-on-one might be assigned to a certain student. But I try to teach that one-on-one is that your student only needs you for this and this.
And then move around.
And then move around.
Yay.
And become a part of the classroom.
Yes.
And that actually helps with that inclusion.
Yes.
So now the kids don't look at, oh, that person is the only person that can help that child out. The other kids become more involved with them, and the same with the teachers. And then I have to teach the teachers is that you don't tell the aide what the child that they're working with needs to do. You are still the teacher. You need to come and you need to give the instructions to that child. And if there's discipline things, you need to be the one doing discipline. If you're doing a project, you're the one that needs to guide that student. So trying to make everyone look at everyone as equal and in the same category.
I
and
love
stuff
hearing you
like
say
that.
I've tried to help teachers and principals understand that they can maneuver around the whole room. I've really tried, so hearing you say that just rings so to my heart.
Yes.
We had an experience in one of the schools. Harrison was actually put aside in a desk, probably a good 10 to 15, 20 feet away from the other kids. It was off back behind the teacher's desk at his own desk. And that was because I was pushing for inclusion so much, and I didn't want him self-contained, but he kind of got self-contained in the class in front of everyone.
Yes.
And he was such a good, quiet kid who loved to listen and learn, but he became a discipline problem. And it was interesting to watch what happened, because at home I was working on 25-piece puzzles with him, and I would tell them, but they didn't understand that. You know, he was more advanced than they were thinking he could be, and they would give him 8-piece insert puzzles.
Oh boy.
And that's what he sat in the corner and just did over and over and over for hours. Whenever they didn't know what to do, they would give him that same puzzle. Well, Harrison's very ingenuitive, and he was getting very bored with the same puzzle after he did it 100 times. He started taking the pieces and realized they were magnets, started magnetizing them all around him and putting the pieces everywhere, because to me that was smart. And I thought that was beautiful and creative. And he was tired of the 8-piece puzzle and being ignored in the corner.
I'm sure.
So I don't know. I was grateful for that, but became a discipline problem for the teacher. But
and it's negative attention as well.
Negative attention, and then I didn't let it get worse than that. I just pulled him out of school and homeschooled him at that point, because they didn't, and I homeschooled him. Actually, I came up with a model for the school because they didn't want to teach him. So I did all his core classes in the morning and taught him that at home, and then at lunchtime I brought him to school and let him get lunch and recess and the social and PE and all that stuff. So he got the social lunch and afternoon, and then I got him not up to grade level, but I at least taught him how to read and do math at home, and then moved him back in. When he got into 4th grade is when we moved him back in.
Wow.
So
well, kudos to you.
And
First of all,
he will be in 8th grade.
I know.
I
And
know.
he's excited.
He's had wonderful teachers, but like you said, that teacher just didn't know what to do with him.
And that is what I want to really, it's not that people don't want to do inclusion, I just don't think people know how.
They don't know how.
And so it really is our job as therapists, and I'm saying PT, OT, speech, you know, the resource teachers, whoever, to help those teachers out, because they don't get that information in school. And principals. And I will say that
administration,
first of all, a school does not run from just teachers. You need to have administration. Your principal has to really take ownership to any special ed programs on their campus. And they need to understand the dynamics that happen and support the teachers and everyone. So I feel like is the biggest thing in inclusion, is making sure everyone has knowledge.
Right. And I like what you said there, and it's what's really interesting and almost kind of sad is I love ASU. We graduated from ASU, you know, go ASU.
Yeah.
But there's ironic and sadness at the same time. My husband and I happened to meet in the one special needs class. They only teach one special ed class to become a teacher. There was just one. It was one semester, that was it. And I think there could have been a lot more. But my husband and I actually met there. How foreshadowing is that?
Oh.
So to me, that's pretty special.
That's
and
awesome.
We had no idea what our future was going to look like together, and we didn't know we were going to get married at that point.
Right.
But we both kind of look back and feel sad that was all we learned before we became teachers.
I would hope that has changed.
Yeah, me too. That was over 20 years ago, but we too hope it's changed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't taught inclusion at all. It was.
And I was taught the opposite. I went through an education program that was alongside the speech program, and I had student teaching in the schools. It was like an education tract in my undergrad. So I kind of did the opposite, so I could actually see what, and I don't like the word typical, but I could see what regular education was doing, and then also piece it together with the speech component. So I took all kinds of education courses and learned all the different philosophies. It was really amazing. I was just going to second on some of the things you were saying with the inclusion. I would be doing what you're doing, but I would be coming from a speech perspective. And if it's in the schools or at home, it's working on communication and a total communication approach. So it's working on, if it's a device, if it's low-tech pictures, it's providing a communication system that's going to work across all contexts and all places, including the community. So that would be finding your voice, right?
Yes, very much finding your voice.
However it's going to look. And then I also would did a lot with lunch.
Finding my voice.
Of course you are.
I think we all are still finding our voice, because as we have experiences in this world, we have our voices, and I say like voice, not how we project, but our voices change, and how we support, and you know what our passions become. And so part of our passions are a part of our voice.
different experiences in life
Yes,
change. Yes,
definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you support inclusion for your client, not just in therapy, but at home, school, and in the community?
And I think we kind of covered that, didn't we?
think
Quite a bit. We
so.
went pretty
Yeah.
in depth
I
on that one.
think I would say the only thing I'd like to add for home is, and I don't even know if this is part of inclusion, to help. Like when I started, I was like gung ho. Okay, as a parent, can you stretch your kid for a half an hour a day? Put them in the stand or do this, do that. Do all of these things to follow through with what I'm doing at school. And then the speech therapist would be asking, and the OT and things like that. And then I started working with families in the home. And then I realized what I was asking was too much. Like, I want parents to be educated on how to follow through with therapies in the home and things like that. But the expectation that you're going to spend all your time doing therapy at home, therapy is part of your household activities. It doesn't have to be that half hour sitting on that bed stretching. It doesn't have to be standing in a stand, or if you're working on walking, let's walk around the community. Let's go walk on balance, and you have to walk on those little curbs, things like that.
We have to go to the beach in Cancun.
I know, and walk and things
and
like that.
practice walking.
Yeah.
So,
Right?
With the food on in there.
With a
and go
like you did.
swim with the dolphins and things. So I, luckily, at a very early on point in my career for pediatrics, was doing homebound things for kids that were medically fragile. And I really finally realized what I was asking was too much, and that I really needed to just support what was going on at home. Not that I didn't have expectations for some follow through, but not to the extent that I was making people, or hearing then people judge parents for not following through enough. And I'm like, and then I had to become a voice for parents and say, they still have to cook dinner. They still have to help some of these kids with their ADLs. They still have to have the other kids. They have other kids in the house that need help too. They have obligations of being a wife or a husband and things like that. So I had to become actually a voice, and I think that's part of inclusion, is you have to become a voice also when you find out things, to help other people become knowledgeable.
And have them become better advocates.
Right, and because I think we all have to become advocates. And my last thing is, if you're working in a home with kids, like I think back, I had this little girl and she was very involved. And we were on the floor all the time. And then the second baby came. And originally just a baby, but then became a little tot and then started crawling and things like that. And so the mom was like, oh, do I need to keep her away? And like, no, I need to make her a part of this therapy. We're making her a part of that therapy. And then the second kid came along and the same, and we were like on the floor, and we just made them a part of the therapy, which then made them a part of their sibling's life. And their sibling wasn't someone that, okay, they're fragile, medically fragile, we can't touch, we can't. I mean, they were crawling over her, I was having to lift them up, and things like that. But other therapists that were coming into the home at that time were asking mom to keep those kids away.
Separated, yeah, you don't want to separate.
And so it was interesting, over time, I was the only one that they kept. Because I became part of the family, part of that, and I wanted everyone to be included. So inclusion isn't just what happens outside the household. It happens also what happens
Getting
inside.
creative of what your daily routines are.
Can I share as a mother some of the things? Sorry, it's making me emotional.
Oh, no.
Because I was in that spot where I was the mom I had 3 kids with a disability, so I was having to do all the assignments with 3 kids, and on top of that, 9 to 16 hours a week of therapy with PT, OT, speech, aquatic, hippotherapy, and then they were all giving me assignments. And especially when you get stuck in bed when you're pregnant and you're trying to make sure they're all mobile and being okay. So a few of the things that I did in my home, there's 3 things that I did when I knew I wasn't going to be able to be one-on-one with all 3 of them all the time, and they needed to get upright as often as possible. One thing I did is I put a large chalkboard on the wall, and I put it way down low, so it wasn't at a typical height of a chalkboard, but it was down low where I could go stand all my children at the chalkboard at the same time, and they had to bend over to pick up the chalk out of the basket.
That's
awesome.
But they would spend a long time doing that while I could make dinner, and I had it close by where I could see it. So that was therapy happening without me. I had to get creative, like you said. When you said creative, that made me think of that.
I know.
So the chalkboard was one, and it's still up there. I moved it to the loft now, because then they had to go up the stairs to get to it, which was a therapy.
Right. It's
Exactly.
therapy.
And then another one was just having mirrors. At first my mirrors were way down low because they were on their bellies, and they would love to look in the mirror, and then I moved it up a little bit higher as they were able to stand up and get up to the mirror. So having mirrors down low and chalkboards.
Do you remember this? You might have been little.
You were little.
You know what the chalkboard is because you use it almost every day still, but
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
she still likes to stand at the chalkboard and write on it.
That's awesome.
That's great. And actually, listening to my OTs, writing on chalkboards is where you should, like, writing in that
On an angle.
position is where you should start anyway.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Yeah, when she first wrote on the wall, she was laying on her back. She was of age to write on the wall, but she couldn't stand up at that age. It was around 3 or 4 years old. And she was laying on her back, drawing on the wall, and I was cheering because
That's awesome.
my daughter was doing something that other kids were doing, getting in trouble. And I just remember being so excited
Good
about that.
job. Here's a crayon.
But that's one of the things that gave me the idea to put a chalkboard at
On
that
the
level.
wall.
That's-
And then
yeah.
she stood up to it. So.
yeah. That's why I think you have to be creative. And I think parents need to give themselves grace
Yeah.
because there is a lot that comes with this. And I think you have to give yourself kudos. You do as much as you do. I really do. And I feel grace is what we all need to give ourselves in every day, in every aspect of our life.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you too, like we all are giving ourselves grace because we can do as much as we can do, but there are some limitations for all of us.
For everybody, yeah.
Yeah. Can you share a moment where you saw a client reach a milestone that really touched you?
We talked about it.
We talked about it. We both got a little teary on this one. But I'll go first and then you can tell your story. So I would say there's been many moments. And I wish we both were saying that we wish we had written them down and documented all the moments, and really maybe she said write a book about it. I said, why didn't we think of that, back 30 years ago? But the most recent one that touched my heart is a little boy that I've worked with since he was 3. And when I first started with him in the home, it's only been 3 years, so he's 6 now. He was on the autism spectrum, and he was really nonverbal. He had some vowels, and he was a very busy boy around the house. And just to get him to sit still. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get started? And that's what we think, like, what can I do to start the communication process? So we started at the very early stages of joint attention, of shared, reciprocity and things that were motivating with him, learning how to use a toy, turn taking, the basic. And I can honestly say I just saw him, I still continue to see him, and he has transitioned to a school from an ABA center, and he is, talking in sentences and having conversations, and has become so spontaneous over these 3 years. But to see him now transitioning to a school, still with some supports, but with fully included, and I'm thrilled to get the updates from the supports that he gets there. How well he's doing, and he's learning, and he's reading, and so those are the moments, and I've had many, but those are the moments that are special. I can think of one more. I have a client who is 25. I've known him since he was 3. He was in my preschool at our district, and I didn't see him consecutively all those years. but kept in touch with the family. I get as well very close to my families unattached, and I've seen some of them for many years. But I have been seeing him since he's 20. He's 25 or 21, I guess, 25, and he is very apraxic, and it's really hard to understand. But he's motivated at 25.
Wow.
So never say never to learn how to speak. I'm working on a method of working on a method for him to become more intelligible, and he's motivated and grateful at 25 and social and a blessing. So every week I get to see him as just, and I have visions and memories of him just standing at the water table, and we would always we would just be like, so I don't know if you were our PT, but we were excited. So those are the moments, but it's even like later on in life, and they're kind of circled back into my world, and I feel so honored, and I'm very close with the family, which is just beautiful too.
Wow, I love that you said he's motivated at 25, because
so much.
Sometimes
You think that they're like done and that they plateaued. And
that's the word. That's what I say. I say, please just keep teaching my kids. They're plateauing right now, but then they take off, and then they plateau, and then they take off. And if people can understand that, it's just incredible.
And the things we're working on are things we're going to work on as they get older. Are navigating the world and life skills and social situations.
She's understanding math for the very first time in her life. She's taken 5 math classes at the college in a row, and she's passed them all in a year and a half.
Wow, Charlotte.
And she's just decided she gets it and loves it. She's doing division and multiplication and fractions and all the stuff and she could not even she couldn't master it at all in elementary school. She couldn't even get the part of the line, amazing. The X, and now she's mastering all of it and knows it better than I do. And so
we can't have
when you say
limits.
Motivated,
we can't have any limits
she just all of a sudden
them.
got it. And one day she just came home from college and goes, Mom, I'm understanding.
That's so awesome.
And so she's in that mode right now of just being motivated and learning and all that stuff that she plateaued at for so long.
Isn't that amazing?
So when you said that, I just felt that mama's heart that he's at 25 just
they're
starting
so
to
thrilled.
move forward.
Yeah, they're so, and he technically could have a device, but he really doesn't want to use it. He's never wanted to use it.
We both have seen him for.
Yes.
I don't see him anymore.
But she knows the family.
Yeah,
she
I started in
family.
preschool and worked with him also. It was like,
Number 7.
And then, I just want to say my moment.
Oh yeah.
Because I might cry. I'm sorry. So I started in the district, and this was probably second year maybe in the district, and as I had mentioned before, I did a lot of community re-entry with my adults, and I thought that was so important, and I felt like inclusion was so important. And so I had a little girl. She was in regular ed. She had cerebral palsy, and we started walking with a walker, and me having to really hold on to her, and then we progressed, and in those days I had no therapy room, so I worked in the middle of the hallways in any corner I could find. So everyone watched her when she did therapy, but everyone was like, yay, look at you. Yes. Like everything she did, and it was like so wonderful, from the custodians to the principals to the teachers to the cafeteria people, everyone. And so then we progressed to walking with crutches. And so I walk her into her room, and her classmates had never seen her use crutches. We walked her into the classroom with the crutches.
Wow.
Everyone stopped. All the kids turned around, like jaws just dropping. And teachers stopped teaching, and everyone started clapping and cheering. Now, I would get clapping and cheering, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what life is really about. This is what it's all about. And I sat there and I was like, and
they weren't prompted. This was
not. And really, truly, that told me how included she really was in that school, in that classroom with those kids. And I'm thinking, gosh, like what I did with adults is just happening naturally in the schools with these kids, and having kids being included, and having kids understand that we all have differences, and those differences we need to be celebrated, because they really make us who we are. But again,
Okay.
that one was.
That was
Oh
a
my
tear-
gosh.
tearjerker for sure.
Oh, and
And
so
Charlotte
That's great
Charlotte
story.
can totally connect with that walking with crutches for the first time.
Yes.
Just thinking about it, I could tell when you were sharing that.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
it's exciting, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
you
To be
you,
upright.
you do that progression, and it's just like that next step of independence.
But since then, she's also helped other people walk with crutches.
Oh, that is awesome.
So
I
me-
taught my sister Caroline.
You
It
did?
took me a while for her to help me with it.
Well, I didn't ever walk with crutches, so I didn't know how to teach her to walk with
Right,
crutches.
right.
And so, so
Yeah.
it took her longer because I was lacking knowledge and wisdom there.
Mhm.
But to watch Charlotte teach Caroline,
Aw.
that was incredible.
That
That was
is
a very
awesome.
sorrowful moment. I
Yeah.
remember when she got
And
to do
then
that.
Harrison got to skip crutches.
And
I
we're
like how
glad.
she puts that.
We're
We're
glad. 'Cause he was
glad.
a little boy with sticks. That would have been dangerous. So.
That's a Star Wars trooper.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
loves his Star Wars.
What are some
Practical?
practical first steps families can take to help a child or adult with special needs grow independent?
These are very thought-provoking. I was going to say trusting your instinct as parents. So that I learned as I became a parent. I understood what that meant. My son he had some challenges in the beginning of life. And had I not trusted my own instincts as a mom and my husband at the time, I don't know where he would have been. You know, he had chronic infections having to do with the throat and the ears, and he, early on just started with that. But had I not, and maybe because I knew the medical field a little bit, but I trusted myself as a mother and as a family to say, no, this needs to be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're taught to really trust the experts, and sometimes they're doctors or developmental pediatricians or whatever. But I often think we really need to trust ourselves.
Right.
I mean, I've said that a number of times to my families that I've worked with. You're their first teacher. Your instincts and your intuition, and I guess that's the part that I realized
Mm-hmm.
really matters.
That's real, yes.
And I think you could probably relate to that because, you
in the
probably have
first-
had to do that.
Well, in the first few years when she just laid on her back, not knowing she had arms and legs, the doctors just kept telling me she'd grow out of it.
Right.
It was 3 to 4 years. And we lived up here in a small town. There was only a couple doctors at the time. Now we have
Right.
dozens, so we're blessed 20 years later. But back in the day, I was just told it was my first baby. I was just a
Right.
worried mother, that she'd grow out of it. But when she was over 3 years old and still not developing, and I didn't feel good about the day she was born. I remember her eyes were doing some wiggly thing
Okay.
that didn't look normal, and I said something then, and everybody just brushed me off. And so I had said things for a while, and nobody listened to me. And I wish I understood how to advocate before, because I feel like she got a bigger setback because I didn't listen to my intuition. I was too afraid, and I had.
Thank you for saying. And I think
Yeah.
many families they're saying, well, my doctor said this, or there is an intuitive manner that you cannot, even a doctor cannot take over. So I would say that to many of my families I have, to really trust their instincts and
One thing I
go
learned
with
a
that.
little bit
and be the advocate.
And find a
Yeah.
specialist that's really listening,
Well, that's
you
what
know,
I
to
thought.
you.
I have a lot
And-
of parents that reach out to
yeah.
me now as kind of a mentor or whatever, because I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I just tell them that you need to find them like what you just said, kind of as a business partner. They need to be more of a partner, and you respect them because they have lots of knowledge in this area,
Right.
but also that they need to respect your ideas as a mother and not just talk down to you, because that happened to me a lot in the beginning.
Right.
Does that make sense? And so
Yes.
if a doctor,
Yes.
I tell them, if your doctor's not going to listen to you and give you a prescription that you need for horse therapy or things that you're needing, because that's kind of what they're supposed to do,
Right.
Yeah.
is listen and partner
Right.
with you on raising,
Exactly.
helping this child.
Be a partner. Yes.
Yeah, be a partner. And the other thing that people can do what they want with this, but I tell them kind of dress a little bit professional when you go to the doctor's appointments, because that gives them
Oh.
a respect for you too. I've tested that out numerous times. I'll
That's
dress sloppy just to
interesting.
see, and then I've dressed a little more professional.
Interesting.
And I get treated, and not that it should be that way, so I said some people may not agree with me, But if you want to be respected by the doctors as well, if you dress professional, they listen to me a lot more.
Right.
And so I've given that direction to mothers, and they said they noticed the relationship change with, because a lot of times we're just worn out as moms. We're just trying to get to the point where we get the kids' diapers changed or whatever we need and get out the door and make it there in time. But I've just noticed it goes better. I just take a little bit more time and dress up a little bit more. I know it sounds like a funny advice, but it really works.
In general, you are going to be treated differently depending on how you dress and how you present yourself. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is very much that way, and they talk about that in your professional life.
Exactly.
In
so
your
if you're
personal
being a professional
life.
advocate for your children,
Yes.
and you want to be a partner with the doctor, then it's helpful if you do that.
Yes.
So, and I'm not saying I dress perfect every time. Like I said, I would show up just barely
And I'm
making
sure
it
you
on
have
days.
a lot to tell folks about finding the right team. I guess that would be my other point, right? Just finding the right team.
And that's what we kind of linger into that here.
Yeah.
And I think being an advocate, giving, for me, I want to tell parents, like even parents that wanted their kids as inclusion, and we really were recommending like a self-contained, because our district has the self-contained. But I can remember this one parent, it was hilarious. It was like, we'd come into the meeting and we like, okay, we have to kind of recommend what our district's kind of philosophy is. So we would recommend a self-contained program, and the parent would come in and say, well, I don't want a self-contained program, so I want inclusion. And it was wonderful at that time. The principal was fully willing to take on, they left their home school because that school was not going to
Be
inclusive and wanted to fight it. And she went and talked to this other principal, and she's like, we'll just make it work, whatever it takes.
Good.
And we'd look at each other, and I'm like, she's like, well, we'd say, well, we kind of recommend this might be a good program for her. And they'd be like, that we don't. We're like, yeah, we know. So we just sat and was okay with that. So I think you also have to find people that are going to listen to you. They're still going to give you their professional recommendations, but it's okay to be able, as long as you have people that are respectful on what your desires.
We've had to move from district to district too, from the different districts, to find a school that was going to support inclusion for us.
Right.
And then I've actually had callbacks from principal the next year saying, okay, we're willing to work with you on this, will you bring them back to the district? Well, I had to have 3 special needs, so whatever that brings to the district that they like to have there, but I've been asked to come back to the district willing to do inclusion. And so that's interesting.
And
to
times
me.
have changed.
And times have changed, yes.
Yes.
Over 20 years, yes.
Yes, and then I was gonna say the other thing about doctors, because I did a lot of special needs preschool evaluations. I've done that throughout my career at the district, and I do not know how many kids would come in not walking, or they're 3 and they're functioning at 1.5 years, and the parents have been told they'll grow out of this. And we as a team had to tell them they're not growing out of this.
Right.
They may progress,
Forward,
and they might get to the point that they are doing everything at their age level.
But they're not just going to grow out. They need the help and
they
the
need
support.
the help and the support. So I really recommend families really looking at seeing what your district has to offer if they're getting to that 2 years, 9 months is when districts districts are required to start doing evals at 2 years, 9 months. So if you have those questions and you're not getting the support you feel like you need to from the medical world, definitely reach out to your schools, but push it, because every school district's a little bit different on what they're willing to offer.
Right.
So all I just say is parents, be the biggest advocate.
And something that needs to be kind of understood too, even though the different districts and schools have different rules and different programs, there's still the laws of the state.
There's the law.
And so we have to make sure that.
And for 0 to 3.
Yeah.
And a 0 for 3
Or
too.
ASIC.
Yeah.
So it's okay, because we've had to help some schools step up to the laws that they were not following. They were saying really backwards.
Yeah.
So we've had to help them understand that laws have changed, and we need you to step up to change your rules to meet the laws, right?
Yes.
And so that's happened, but.
And
you
I
can do it in a loving way. Things don't have to be. I always say to do it at a Christ-like advocating. That's what I try try to teach, instead of going in angry and upset, to go in loving them and meeting them where they're at, and
The whole world would do that.
helping
I
them
would
to-
be so happy.
But just
I know.
because they
We
only
talk
have so
about
much
that.
education.
I
I had
know.
one person apologize to me that was a huge leader that I looked up to, and he just said, "I'm sorry, I just don't even have this in my family. I've never been around it, so this is new to me, and I'm just
Right.
trying to even avenue and understand it. So thank you for educating me."
Wow.
And so we can do that in a kind way, and not
Yes,
just that angry.
yes,
And
it
you
needs-
actually get farther that way.
You
So.
do. You do.
So thank you.
If you're listening, thank you for being a part of this. We are excited to share more stories and more truths and more love in every episode. Until next time, love one another, and like I say, so let's be friends.